This video is going to be really weird, so I want you to trust me on this one. But I will say this is a topic that I've sort of had in my calendar app listed as a potential video topic for months now. Like, this was something that has always been there. It's just so many other things came up and I was like, okay, we gotta copy paste all the topics that I have and move them later because there's some new things that are here, and now it's been months and I'm like, okay, we still haven't made a video about that. So why not go out there and make this video today going over the first overall pick by the Montreal Canadiens in 2022, Juraj Slafkovsky. Now, last time we had talked about Slafkovsky, we went over the vow. We went over what he said he was going to vow to do for next year's season, and it was a pretty good conversation. We talked about his plan, or, well, we talked about him talking about his plan, and we kind of just set our expectations straight in the comment section below. But in this video, what I wanted to do instead was head over to a little bit of a differing conversation in regards to Slafkovsky and his development. Let's head over onto Byron Bader's Twitter account. He is the creator of Hockey Prospecting, an NHL Draft consultant and data scientist. I'm pretty sure y'all are familiar with Bader. His work has been featured on Sportsnet, TSN, and The Athletic. He essentially does player card models that statistically break down and analyze prospects and compares them with historical data from other players who have played in similar leagues and who have had similar sort of progression. We've seen these graphics pop up a lot over the past few years. He compares guys and says, okay, well, this guy is more akin to this other player because of the way they've developed. And a few months ago, he tweeted out the Juraj Slafkovsky player card, and he also tweeted out a player card for Mateychuk, and pretty much essentially you could see there's a little bit of a comparison there between these two guys. You could see the numbers and everything, see what they mean, but what I wanted to do instead was read what Bader had to say about Slafkovsky in this little tweet here. There are 220 forwards that have had a similar progression from their draft -1 to their draft +1 season, and same relative age to Juraj Slafkovsky. Most of them were not in the NHL by their draft +1 season, but still only 3 ever turned into stars: Henrik Zetterberg, Mateychuk, and JT Miller. That's worrisome. Now, I know what you're thinking, Lego, what are you doing here? Why are you saying Slafkovsky projects like Miller? It's one of the 3 names that Byron Bader lists, and there are 220 other guys in total that have a similar progression to Juraj Slafkovsky. Why are you singling out Miller, man? What are you doing? And this is sort of the point that I want to make here, because Byron Bader, essentially by conveying this type of information, he's saying a few things. Firstly, that there are not too many players that have had this sort of range of production from draft -1 to draft +1, so that's draft -1, draft year, and then draft +1. But essentially, the reason it's important is because that draft +1 year with Juraj Slafkovsky has been somewhat of a decline with PNHLE rankings comparative to his prior season. If you look at his draft -1, his draft -1 NHLE score is 13, his draft year score is 27, and this year's draft +1 NHLE score where he was in the NHL was at 21 flat. Now, if you want to know what that means, NHLE score is an NHL equivalency score. It's a factor that takes a part of a player's age, weight, height, league, position, and combines it all into a formula and spews out saying, hey, this guy is at this score. And Juraj Slafkovsky, admittedly, for a first overall pick, had a really low NHLE score in his draft-eligible year. 27 is really not that high. Now, of course, we know why this is the case, because Slafkovsky, in his regular league play last season, was not too amazing. He was really good on international tournaments, and in the playoffs, he actually got a little bit better with his Liga team. But for the most part, Juraj Slafkovsky did not have the same type of draft season that you'll normally see out of first overall guys, where Shane Wright, okay, not Shane Wright, not a good example because he wasn't first overall, but you get what I mean. When Jack Hughes, Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews were in their draft seasons as first overall guys, they dominated their respective leagues. They scored points like crazy, and unfortunately for Juraj, he did not do that. Now, there has been some sort of a decline with his draft +1 NHLE score, but essentially what Bader is saying that out of all the players that have been sort of the same age as Slafkovsky and who have exhibited this same sort of trajectory with NHL equivalency scores from their draft -1 to their draft +1, there's only 3 that really project to Slafkovsky's level that actually became stars: Zetterberg, Hejduk, and Miller, and there are 217 other forwards who did not become stars. So firstly, that's alarming. You don't want to see Juraj Slafkovsky be included in a group of 220 players where only 3 became stars, but also it's kind of alarming because Henrik Zetterberg, JT Miller, Milan Hejduk, these guys were never super amazing out the gate either. It took them a very long time to become good NHL players. And I'm going to speak mostly from the perspective of JT Miller here because I'm a Canucks fan, so I've seen him the most out of these 3. But when it comes to JT Miller, I'm going to be honest, if you told me sometime down the line that Juraj Slafkovsky would become the player that JT Miller is today, firstly, I'd say, okay, well, hopefully he has a better attitude. But secondly, I'll say, okay, that's actually pretty good. Realistically speaking, JT Miller was a 100-point caliber player last year. He had 99 points in 80 games, so yeah, nice to see that go out there again. But even this season, the guy had 82 points in 81 games played, and a lot of Canucks fans would say this year was not a good year for Miller. He's a player that knows how to create offense, and he just kind of does it. You know, he doesn't need to think about it. He just does the right thing most of the time. And last year, he had a boatload of assists because he was every other touch on the power play. Miller to Hughes to Pettersson to Hughes to Miller to Hughes to Pettersson to Hughes, and then a shot and then a rebound, and then Miller would end up with the secondary assist. It happened like that frequently for Vancouver. And if Juraj Slafkovsky would be able to display that same sort of, what's the right word I'm looking for? I could say effectiveness, but that doesn't really convey the feeling I'm trying to get here. But okay, JT Miller has such a high level of efficiency while also having this nature of not giving a crap that it's oddly potent when it comes to his offensive projection. He's good at winning pucks along the boards, he's moving to the right areas when he doesn't have the puck, he's a great playmaker, very good passer, and he's got a wicked shot too. So if Juraj Slafkovsky could become that sort of a guy, then hopefully it doesn't take him till he's 30 years old to get a 100-point season, but I could see that sort of mold applying itself nicely to the profile that Slafkovsky has. Especially since Slafkovsky is a bigger guy, I feel like there could be an added layer of effectiveness there with physicality and puck protection should Slafkovsky map out to a JT Miller-like player over the next few years. Of course, though, Byron Bader's model is only suggesting these two as a link because JT Miller's overall progression since he was drafted had been sort of similar to Slafkovsky's. Miller in his draft -1, so the year before he was drafted, was a great junior player with the US NTDP's U17 team. He then got drafted out of the US NTDP for the U18 team where he was okay, pretty good. I mean, a point per game definitely isn't bad. And then the next season, he went over to the OHL where he was slightly over a point per game there. Not amazing, but it was still okay. The seasons after, he played with the Rangers, he played with the Lightning. You know, there was this competitive edge in Miller, and he was a super eager-to-win type of guy. In Tampa, he was okay, 47 points, 75 games, and then he gets traded to Vancouver and puts up a 72-point year. A few years later, he gets 100 points pretty much. So he's honestly been a pretty solid player. It's just his career trajectory took such a long time to get there that I hope that for your eyes' sake, it doesn't take him as long because you know everybody's going to be calling him a bust by the time he's 23 years old. But either way, if Juraj Slafkovsky can eventually become a 100-point player, then hey, be my guest. Go ahead and do that. As for the other two stars that had been exhibiting some sort of a similar profile, that's not even including the 217 guys that were not stars. Henrik Zetterberg was not a 100-point player. He had 92 points in 75 games played as a career high, which I guess you could map out to saying would have been on pace for 100, but it wasn't 100. Then you had yourselves Milan Hejduk, who was just an absolute gem. What a great hockey player he was, playing for the Colorado Avalanche back in the day. But Hejduk maxed out as a 98-point player in 82 games played. So again, not 100 points, pretty close, but not 100. Either way, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Juraj Slafkovsky, he compares to these 3 guys, and specifically JT Miller. What are your thoughts about that? Do you think Slafkovsky has it in him to become a guy like JT? And if he does, how quickly do you think he's going to get there? Do you think you're going to have to wait till Slafkovsky is 30? Or could you see this happening, let's say, in 2026? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.